Hi, today let's take a look at The Thing from the Grave and Other Stories, illustrated by Joe Orlando. This is an artist edition from Fantagraphics of Joe Orlando art for EC Comics. Here's the back of it. I got this used for about 15 bucks over the past week. This is about 30 bucks US, so about like 40 bucks or so Canadian. Pretty cool stuff. I don't get a lot of these artist editions of the EC Comics stuff. I really should. I have a Jack Kamen one that I'll probably do a video on at some point. But Joe Orlando, of course, I associate him with DC Comics, specifically their horror comics line, and Kane, the horror host, and we'll get to that. So yeah, here is a list of all the stuff. So what Fantagraphics does is they usually put out what they call artist editions, but it's not original art, it's the uncolored art. So it's the inked stuff. So here's a list of all the stuff here. And usually there's a foreword that lists in detail all the different stories you're going to read and some insights for them, which is pretty cool stuff. There he is, the man. And here's Kane, the horror host from House of Mystery. So Joe Orlando became the editor of House of Mystery and created this character here. A lot of people think that it's supposed to be a version of Len Wein, but there's a character in these stories that looks a lot like this, and Joe Orlando had drawn that. I love EC Comics. I was introduced to EC Comics in the 90s when whatever rights dispute was cleared up, and all of a sudden there were a bunch of reprints on stands, on, like, you know, in convenience stores and stuff, and I bought those, and of course the show came out and everything. Vault of Horror, here's Forbidden Fruit. Look at this detail. Amazing. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with EC Comics, it was they started out doing Bible comics and things, and then they did horror comics, and they pushed the envelope and pushed the envelope and pushed the envelope back in the day. Here's Madame Bluebeard. And they had all this wonderful detailed art, and they do these anthology comics of just 3 or 4 horror stories with a horror host, and they're gruesome. They're usually morality plays of some sort, which was the norm at the time. You know, it's what Twilight Zone was all about too, usually. And Sinner Trance. Look at this zombie. Wonderful stuff. I don't know if this is if EC Comics had the first depictions of what we would know as zombies, with these really decrepit looking zombies, you know, in visual form. I don't know, I whenever I see zombies depicted in old pulp magazines, they don't look as bad. Sometimes maybe just a skull with some flesh on it, so I guess that counts. A Rotten Trick, The Vault of Horror. And a lot of this stuff was written by all sorts of different writers that would go on to write for Mad Magazine. Impressed by Nightmare. Yeah, this is what I think of when I think of EC Comics, this level of art. I know that EC Comics has been revived nowadays. I bought the entire line, and now I've sort of like petered out. I think I have Catacombs. I can't remember what the rest of it was called. This guy, yeah, looks like Kane from the future House of Mystery. But there you have it, and that was drawn by Joe Orlando. Look at all the detailing on his forehead and everything. Wonderful stuff. But yeah, when the new EC Comics came out, I think it's from Oni Press. I thought, hey, you know, like they're gonna do it like this, and they didn't. It's all just modern art, you know, soft edges, you know, cartoony looking stuff. Midnight Mess instead of Midnight Mass. Look at this craven guy. Let me center this a bit more. This dude. Yeah, they had a lot of violence in these things. So, of course, it's part of comics legend. This is sort of what led to the Comics Code Authority. The government was out to get people who were a bad influence on children, and so they called Gaines, the editor of EC Comics, into a hearing. And as legend has it, he might have been a little high at the time. Don't know if that's true or not, but didn't give a great performance in trying to defend all this stuff, right? And it was sort of tough to defend, right? They had a cover where there was a beheaded woman being carried by a hand, and it was like, it was hard to it was hard to explain away all that. So look at the paneling on this, like big fat thick margins. Look at that guy. That's great. The Thing from the Grave. This is what this is named after. Food for thought. Yeah, I was fascinated by EC Comics as a kid. I was into all the 90s stuff, like the Image and, and what Dark Horse was doing with their superheroes and the whole, the Malibu, what do they call it, the Ultraverse and all that stuff, and DC and Marvel and everything else. And I read the EC Comics, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. Like, I was getting tired of superheroes, but it was cool to read something else other than superheroes. And they had these. They had the Two-Fisted Tales, which was like, war stuff and all that, and the crime comics, which were super violent as well. And I liked the stories in them. And when the show came out, I loved the show, but like I felt that the show was putting too much of a humorous slant on all of the stories that I loved from those EC Comics reprints that I was buying. Here's a different kind of art style for this. Breakfast with the Flurshuggeners. It's supposed to be humorous, but I'm sure it's dark humor. I'm sure it's gruesome at some point. I said that's enough. I can't stand it anymore. So what's he going to do about that? Oh, there you go. And there you have it. There had to be some sort of gruesome twist at the end. Mother Goon's nursery rhymes. Yeah, whenever they did a take on nursery rhymes or something, that was always gruesome as well. Spots before your eyes. Oh, is this where he, Oh, I thought this is the one where a guy commits murder and then scrubs the entire house. Look at this. Lots of different art styles here. I think this was turned into a story in the TV series that was directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Lots of different art styles towards the back here. Bombay Valley. This is all great stuff. Color's great, and usually it was colored by Mary Severin, legendary in comics, but I do like seeing all of these, all of the art just in black and white. You can really get the detail out of that. Out of the Grave. Joe Orlando. Look at that. And here's more right up at the back. And here are all the different artists that worked on all of this. Gardner Fox. Jack Mendelson. Yeah, this is well worth getting. Especially the price I got it for is $15. Of course, when you get used stuff, they have some sort of mark on it or something. And there are some dings here and there, but it presents well, and the interior is great. So that's it. Joe Orlando, all of his art for EC Comics, great stuff. I hope you like going through this with me. If you like what you saw, please give a like to this video. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Lots of great comic book stuff on here. So until next time, take care.